A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to HJN Super Foam Flying. And now for today, we're about to tackle some serious territory. Insanely expensive territory. But because of the fact that I actually was able to get a hold of this at a rather great price, I'm very proud to present to you, well, the so-called Elite XD Ravenfire. And so, I'm real, I guess, proud to say that I've actually owned something that's this rare. And the fact that I actually only paid $60 on this one, as opposed to how most people would price it on eBay or otherwise, it certainly is quite a rare, impressive occasion for me to actually get my hands on something like this. But yet, I certainly have not called it the Ravenfire. I've called it something else. I've given it a whole different name. But the whole point is that I actually have one to review. In the same way that I was able to get a hold of some other rare blasters out there that are now turning out more expensive than many others, even though they are insanely bad. Like, think about when I've talked a little bit about the Zombie Strike Rev Reaper over here, and with, well, many others that I just have right now. But in any case, this particular reskin of the Raven CS18 certainly has plenty to offer. Of course, it does in fact have a bit of a used condition to it, and that's because it does have some wear on it, but it does in fact have a pretty clean sort of appearance to it. A bit more so than I've, well, a good handful of other blasters that I do in fact own. Yeah, the rival Hades, if you remember when I've talked about that. That's probably one of the major examples of how used a blaster can look, and how much the white can wither away, giving a more dull bone color to it. But in any case, this particular blaster is just impressive. Being a Raven reskin, it's quite obvious what you're going to expect. You're going to expect me to talk a bit about the bullpup styling, the unique 10-dart clip, which very much is very similar to any case compared to the Raptor Strike, as it does in fact have a transparent side and a white-colored opaque side. Certainly like what the Raptor Strike had, though it doesn't really have that triangular sort of bottom to it. It is in fact just flat-bottomed and can hold 10 darts as opposed to 6 with those Raptor Strike clips. And then of course we got ourselves Moto Strike sort of action right here. It actually does sound very similar to that of the original Raven, plus all of the other reskins that are out, including the Regurgitator and the X-Terra, which is what is known as the Raven Stinger. Yeah, so it rips off both the Raven and the Stinger, which at the time was actually a thing. A dart tag blaster. And then, of course, the Alpha Strike line came in and ripped off the name again, calling its smallest blaster the Stinger. And so I call that the Spinneret, and I call the Raven Stinger the X-Terra, and I call the Elite reskin of the Raven the Regurgitator. As for this one, well, of course you probably remember from Nerf Secret Reveal where I made an entire video dedicated to renaming all of the Nerf blasters out there that require renaming because of how they've ripped off names from older blasters. This one certainly is no different. This does in fact fall under the same sort of stigma that I seem to give out as the AccuTrooper. Yeah, that's right. The AccuTrooper. They didn't even try to come up with a new name for it. They only were very lazy, putting a band-aid on it. And that's even worse than just ripping off the name. Because you might as well just call something different, instead of only slightly altercating it. And this is certainly in the same sort of approach. The name is really my biggest concern with this one. Because of how rare it is though, because it's in a whole new sort of color scheme compared to all the others, and because it does have a rather unique sort of way to fire, as opposed to all the other Ravens that we've had, well, yeah. You basically just saw that. I just flew through the entire 10-dart magazine in just a few seconds. And the thing is, well, in this particular case, let's just open the jam door so you don't have to hear the motor revving and the flywheels. Yeah, this one has probably some of the smoothest, fastest trigger pull that I could possibly find. I feel like you could really blaze through an entire drum mag with this in only a few seconds, in the same way as this one clip that came with it. I feel like for $60, this one actually does way better than most of the other Raven blasters that I have owned, as I did in fact own a Raven as well as a regurgitator. The Xterra, or Raven Stinger, certainly is rare enough to the point where it comes new in a box, and it's certainly a lot more expensive now to get a hold of than ever. And in any case, I feel like that this one is just better left with me for a while, and then I could probably have this thing go up at a much higher price years from now. And so I feel like that I've made such an amazing call in this one. I could certainly sell it for a lot more higher price tag compared to how most people are doing it at this point. That's because many of them are still new in box, believe it or not. But in any case, this blaster is just amazing. Certainly worth 60 bucks. And if you're able to find a similar deal on this, be it auction or buy it now listing on eBay.com, then I'd certainly recommend that you head over there right away to see what you can find. Because I could tell you that it's certainly worth it. For me, and probably for some of you. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.